There's a number in your mind right now. You don't know it's there. You've never calculated it consciously, but it exists, encoded somewhere in the neural pathways of your brain. A specific threshold of income, wealth, and financial success that you believe, at the deepest level, you deserve. And here's what's terrifying. You cannot exceed it. Not because the economy won't let you, not because you lack opportunity, but because your own nervous system will sabotage every attempt to rise above this invisible line. Scientists call it the financial thermostat. Psychologists refer to it as income homeostasis. But the phenomenon is always the same. People unconsciously self-regulate their wealth to match an internal set point, one formed years before they ever earned their first dollar. Imagine waking up and discovering that for your entire adult life, your brain has been quietly, methodically preventing you from building wealth. Every missed opportunity, every self-defeating choice, every inexplicable failure, all orchestrated by an unconscious program you didn't know was running. The evidence is overwhelming, the implications are staggering, and the solution changes everything we thought we knew about becoming wealthy. Today, we journey through evidence that challenges everything you think you know about wealth. Prepare yourself. We begin. In 1978, researchers at Northwestern University published a study that would haunt the field of behavioral economics for decades. They interviewed lottery winners, people who had just received life-changing sums of money, anywhere from $50,000 to millions of dollars. Then they waited 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. What they discovered was impossible. Within 3 to 5 years, nearly 70% of lottery winners had returned to their approximate pre-winning financial position. Not because they'd spent everything, though many had, but because they had systematically, unconsciously reconstructed their previous financial reality. Those who'd been lower middle class became lower middle class again. Those who had been working poor returned to being working poor. Even those who kept most of their winnings reported feeling uncomfortable, anxious, even physically ill when their bank balances exceeded certain thresholds. One winner described it like this: "I had $4 million, but every time I checked my account and saw all those zeros, I felt wrong, like I was looking at someone else's life. So I started investing in businesses I didn't understand, lending money to people I'd barely knew. Within 3 years, I was back to about $80,000 in the bank. And you know what? I finally felt like myself again." The researchers called it reversion to financial mean, but what they'd actually discovered was something far stranger. They'd found evidence that human beings have an internal wealth thermostat, a psychological set point that regulates financial outcomes the same way your body regulates temperature. Think about how your home thermostat works. You set it to 72 degrees. If the room gets too hot, the air conditioning kicks in. Too cold, the heat turns on. The system doesn't care about external conditions. It has one job: maintain the set point. Your financial thermostat works identically. If your income rises above your internal set point, your unconscious mind activates cooling mechanisms. Impulsive spending, bad investments, self-sabotaging behaviors, even mysterious emergencies that drain resources. If you fall below your set point, heating mechanisms engage. Sudden motivation, creative problem-solving, increased work ethic, unexpected opportunities. The result? You always return to your baseline. Dr. Gay Hendricks, psychologist and author of The Big Leap, observed this pattern in thousands of coaching clients over 3 decades. High achievers would approach a certain income level, say $150,000 per year, then encounter a mysterious barrier. They'd get sick, relationships would explode, business deals would collapse. Then, Once their income dropped back to familiar territory, everything would stabilize. He called it the upper limit problem, a psychological ceiling beyond which the unconscious mind refuses to allow success. But why? Why would our own brains prevent financial growth? The answer lies in a discovery made decades earlier in a completely different field. In 1960, plastic surgeon Dr. Maxwell Maltz published Psycho-Cybernetics, documenting a disturbing pattern in his patients. When he performed facial reconstruction, fixing severe deformities, creating conventionally attractive features, some patients experienced profound psychological transformations. They became more confident, more successful, more socially engaged. But others didn't change at all. Despite now having attractive faces, they still saw themselves as ugly. They behaved as if nothing had changed. Their personalities remained frozen in their old self-image. Maltz realized external change means nothing without internal change. He proposed that every person carries a self-image, a mental blueprint of who they are, that governs all behavior. This self-image includes everything: how attractive you are, how intelligent you are, how successful you can be, and crucially, how much wealth you deserve. Any attempt to behave inconsistently with your self-image creates psychological tension that the nervous system immediately works to resolve by forcing you back into alignment with your identity. This is why lottery winners go broke. This is why inherited wealth often disappears within a generation. This is why talented people stay stuck at seemingly arbitrary income levels. They're not limited by the economy. They're limited by their own self-concept. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. If your financial thermostat determines your wealth ceiling, when was it set? Where did this self-image come from? Dr. Bruce Lipton, developmental biologist and author of The Biology of Belief, points to a specific window, ages 0 to 7. During these formative years, your brain operates primarily in theta wave states, the same brainwave frequency associated with hypnosis. In this state, you're downloading programs directly into your subconscious without critical evaluation. Every message about money, success, and worthiness gets encoded as truth. Your parents' stress about bills, their fights about money, the phrases they repeated: money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, we can't afford that, who do you think you are? All of it became your programming, your financial operating system, your wealth thermostat setting. And here's the devastating part. By age 7, the thermostat was locked in place. Since then, you've been running a program you didn't consciously choose, pursuing wealth while simultaneously preventing yourself from obtaining it, trapped in an unconscious cycle of financial self-regulation. The implications are staggering, but the evidence forces us to confront an uncomfortable possibility. What if your current financial situation has almost nothing to do with the economy, your education, or your opportunities, and everything to do with a program installed in your brain before you could tie your shoes? In 2009, researchers at Duke University used functional MRI scanners to observe brain activity while subjects made financial decisions. They discovered something remarkable. When participants were shown potential earnings above a certain personal threshold, their amygdala, the brain's fear center, activated intensely. High potential wealth triggered the same neural response as physical threats. The subjects weren't afraid of poverty, they were afraid of wealth. More precisely, they were afraid of becoming someone they didn't recognize. Dr. Brian Cushon, who led similar research at Stanford, found that the ventral striatum, a region associated with reward anticipation,
showed dramatically reduced activation when subjects considered incomes significantly above their current level. The brain literally couldn't process excessive success as rewarding. But when shown financial scenarios matching their historical income range, reward centers lit up. The subjects' brains were trained to find comfort in familiarity and danger in growth. Your nervous system has learned to associate your current financial level with safety. Everything else registers as threat. In 2013, researchers at Princeton conducted a series of experiments that revealed how scarcity physically alters cognitive function. They took subjects and placed them in simulated poverty conditions, giving them complex financial decisions with insufficient resources. Then, they measured cognitive performance on unrelated tasks. The results were shocking. Simulated poverty reduced cognitive capacity by the equivalent of 13 IQ points, comparable to losing a full night's sleep. But here's what matters for our investigation. When subjects were later given abundant resources, their cognitive function didn't immediately recover. The scarcity mindset persisted even when scarcity itself had been eliminated. The brain had learned poverty. It had created neural pathways optimized for scarcity, and even when the environment changed, the programming remained. Financial trauma rewires the brain, and rewiring persists long after circumstances improve.
In their landmark 1996 study, researchers Thomas Stanley and William Danko analyzed the behaviors of over 11,000 millionaires across the United States. They expected to find high earners, doctors, lawyers, executives. Instead, they found something bewildering. The majority of millionaires earned modest incomes, lived in middle-class neighborhoods, and worked ordinary jobs. The wealth wasn't coming from their paychecks, it was coming from their psychology. These individuals shared a specific mental pattern. They possessed a self-image that included wealth accumulation as a natural, inevitable outcome. They saw themselves as wealth builders, not because of what they earned, but because of who they were. Meanwhile, high-income professionals, many earning $200,000 to $500,000 annually, had near zero net worth. They were trapped in what the researchers called the income trap, earning significant money but unconsciously calibrating their spending to eliminate any accumulation. Their self-image said, "I'm a high earner," not "I'm wealthy." So they earned, but never built. The thermostat doesn't care about your income. It cares about your identity. Economic researchers have documented a persistent anomaly. First-generation immigrants, despite arriving with language barriers, no professional networks, and limited capital, build wealth at significantly higher rates than native-born citizens of comparable education and income levels. A 2018 study from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that within 20 years, immigrant households had median wealth levels 30% higher than their native-born counterparts, even when controlling for income, education, and profession. Why? Dr. Carol Dweck's research on mindset provides insight. Immigrants often possess what she calls a growth mindset, a belief that outcomes are malleable, that identity can change, that circumstances don't define potential. More importantly, they haven't internalized the wealth ceiling present in their adopted culture. Their financial thermostat was set in a different economic reality. They haven't learned that certain income levels are unrealistic or that wealth is for other people. They're operating without the limiting programming that native-born citizens absorbed from childhood. The absence of limiting beliefs creates possibility. The presence of limiting beliefs creates ceilings. Gay Hendricks documented this pattern across 40 years of psychological practice.
Clients would approach a breakthrough, financial, relational, creative, then suddenly self-destruct. The patterns were remarkably consistent. A contractor reaches $500,000 in annual revenue, then accepts a money-losing project that nearly bankrupts him. An executive gets promoted to her dream role, then has an affair that costs her the position. An entrepreneur builds a 7-figure business, then develops a mysterious chronic illness that forces him to sell. In every case, the person had unconsciously crossed their upper limit, the maximum level of success their self-image could tolerate, and their nervous system created chaos to pull them back to familiar territory. Hendricks called these upper limit behaviors, unconscious self-sabotage triggered when external success exceeds internal identity. But this represents just one piece of a much larger psychological puzzle, one that extends deep into the unconscious architecture of human identity itself.
Financial psychologists Brad Klontz and Ted Klontz identified 4 core money scripts, unconscious beliefs about money formed in childhood that govern adult financial behavior. Money avoidance. Money is bad. Wealthy people are greedy. I don't deserve money. Money worship. Money will solve all my problems. More money equals more happiness. Money status. My net worth equals my self-worth. Success means looking successful. Money vigilance. I must be alert and anxious about money at all times. In studies of over 20,000 subjects, they found that these scripts, formed before age 10, predicted adult financial outcomes more accurately than education, profession, or income level. Those with money avoidance scripts earned less and accumulated less wealth, regardless of opportunity. Those with money status scripts earned more but accumulated nothing, trapped in conspicuous consumption. Those with money worship scripts pursued wealth desperately but never felt satisfied. Only those with balanced money scripts, typically formed in households where money was discussed openly, pragmatically, without shame or obsession, built sustainable wealth. Your relationship with money was decided before you learned multiplication, and you've been living out that script ever since. But here's where hope enters the equation. In the 1990s, neuroscientist Dr. Michael Merzenich and his colleagues at UC San Francisco demonstrated conclusively that adult brains are not fixed. They're plastic, constantly rewiring based on experience and attention. Taxi drivers grew larger hippocampi from navigating cities. Musicians developed expanded auditory cortex regions. Meditators physically thickened their prefrontal cortex. The brain you have today is not the brain you're stuck with tomorrow. Dr. Joe Dispenza, neuroscientist and author of Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, took this further. If you can change your brain through repeated experience, you can change your unconscious programming. You can rewrite your financial thermostat. His research showed that focused mental rehearsal, vividly imagining new financial realities with emotional intensity, creates the same neural patterns as actual experience. The brain doesn't distinguish between richly imagined scenarios and real ones. Which means you can reprogram your wealth ceiling by repeatedly experiencing higher levels of success in your mind until your nervous system accepts them as familiar, safe, and aligned with your identity. The thermostat isn't permanent, it's just deeply grooved, and grooves can be changed. James Clear, in Atomic Habits, reframes the entire conversation about behavior change. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. He argues that outcome-based goals, I want to be wealthy, fail because they conflict with identity. But identity-based goals, I am the type of person who builds wealth, succeed because they align behavior with self-concept. This explains why diets fail but lifestyle changes succeed. why New Year's resolutions collapse, but identity evolution persists. When you change what you want, you must fight yourself. When you change who you are, your actions align automatically. Millionaires don't try to build wealth. They simply act consistently with their identity as wealth builders. The results are inevitable. The secret isn't changing your behavior. It's changing who you believe you are. But identity change triggers massive psychological resistance. Dr. Robert Maurer in One Small Step Can Change Your Life explains that the brain's amygdala perceives all change, even positive change, as potential threat. Large changes trigger fight or flight responses. The nervous system panics. This is why sudden windfalls often lead to disaster, why rapid promotions often end in burnout, why quantum leaps in income frequently precede quantum collapses. The change exceeded the nervous system's capacity to adapt. The identity couldn't stretch fast enough, so the unconscious mind created chaos to restore equilibrium. Maurer's solution? Kaizen, the principle of tiny incremental changes that slip beneath the amygdala's threat radar. Small shifts in identity, gradual expansion of the comfort zone, slow recalibration of the financial thermostat. You don't leap to a new income level, you grow into it. The evidence extends beyond behavior now, deeper into the realm of identity itself, into the fundamental question of who you believe you can become. T. Harv Eker, in Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, proposed a comprehensive model. Every person carries a wealth blueprint, a psychological program that determines financial outcomes. This blueprint has 3 levels. Level 1, verbal programming, what you heard about money growing up. Level 2, modeling, what you observed about money behavior. Level 3, specific incidents, emotional experiences that created meaning about money. These 3 inputs combine to create your financial thermostat setting, your unconscious belief about how much wealth you deserve, can handle, and will maintain. Eker's crucial insight: the blueprint operates automatically. You don't consciously decide to self-sabotage. You simply behave consistently with your programming, and self-sabotage is the result. Changing outcomes requires changing the blueprint, and changing the blueprint requires making the unconscious conscious. Identifying your specific programming, then deliberately installing new code. This isn't positive thinking. This is psychological reprogramming. Not everyone agrees on the mechanism. Behavioral economists like Daniel Kahneman argue that financial self-sabotage results from cognitive biases, mental shortcuts that produce irrational decisions. The solution is better decision-making frameworks. Depth psychologists like Carl Jung suggest that wealth ceilings reflect archetypal patterns in the collective unconscious, shadow aspects of the psyche that must be integrated, not merely reprogrammed. Cognitive neuroscientists like Andrew Huberman emphasize the role of dopamine circuits and habit loops, suggesting that wealth building is fundamentally about neural pathway optimization, not belief change. Spiritual teachers like Deepak Chopra propose that wealth flows from consciousness itself, that scarcity is an illusion created by identification with the material world. Each framework offers truth. Each reveals a different facet of the same phenomenon. Human beings unconsciously regulate their financial outcomes to match their internal state. The debate isn't whether the thermostat exists, it's how to change the setting. But the existence of a financial thermostat forces us to reconsider fundamental assumptions about wealth creation. If your outcomes are primarily determined by unconscious programming, then poverty is not primarily an economic problem, it's a psychological one.
wealth inequality may be partially self-perpetuating through inherited beliefs. Education and opportunity matter less than identity and programming. Your financial future is neither fixed nor random, it's programmable. This has profound implications. It suggests that the primary barrier to wealth is not external, not the economy, not your circumstances, not even your skills, but internal. The ceiling is in your mind. And if the ceiling is in your mind, then you possess the power to raise it. This forces us to reconsider our fundamental assumptions about why some people prosper while others remain stuck. The difference may not be talent, luck, or opportunity, but simply the difference between those who've examined their programming and those who haven't.
The field is accelerating rapidly. Dr. Tara Swart, neuroscientist and author of The Source, is using brain imaging to identify specific neural patterns associated with wealth-building mindsets. Her research suggests that high-net-worth individuals show greater prefrontal cortex activation during financial decisions, evidence of deliberate, values-based thinking rather than reactive, fear-based responding. She's developing protocols to strengthen these neural pathways through targeted practices, visualization, affirmation, and deliberate behavior rehearsal. Meanwhile, researchers at MIT's Media Lab are exploring neurofeedback technologies that allow people to observe their brain activity in real time and consciously shift neural patterns associated with scarcity, fear, and limitation. The vision? A future where people can literally watch their financial thermostat settings on a screen and consciously adjust them through focused mental training. We're approaching a world where wealth programming becomes as measurable and modifiable as physical fitness.
Artificial intelligence is entering the conversation. Companies are developing AI coaching systems that analyze your financial behavior patterns, identify unconscious self-sabotage, and provide real-time interventions when you're about to act inconsistently with your wealth-building goals. These systems don't just track spending, they track psychology. They detect when you're operating from scarcity, when you're self-limiting, when you're reverting to old programming, and they interrupt the pattern before it manifests as behavior. The technology is still emerging, but the trajectory is clear. Within a decade, everyone will have access to AI systems sophisticated enough to serve as external accountability for internal transformation. The question is whether we'll use them. But technology alone won't solve this. Finland is piloting educational programs that teach financial psychology to children as young as 5. Not budgeting and saving, but identity formation, belief examination, and emotional regulation around money. New Zealand is training therapists in financial therapy, a hybrid discipline that treats money problems as psychological issues requiring therapeutic intervention, not just financial advice. The Netherlands is experimenting with wealth labs, community spaces where people collectively examine their money scripts, challenge limiting beliefs, and support each other through identity transformation. The recognition is spreading. Financial problems are rarely purely financial. They're psychological, emotional, relational, and spiritual. And solving them requires tools beyond spreadsheets and investment strategies.
Researchers are building increasingly sophisticated models to predict long-term wealth outcomes based on psychological variables. A 2022 study from Harvard Business School found that a psychological assessment measuring money mindset, identity strength, and upper limit patterns predicted wealth accumulation 15 years later with 73% accuracy, far more predictive than income, education, or family wealth. The implications are staggering. If we can predict financial outcomes based on psychology, we can intervene on psychology to change outcomes. We can identify limiting patterns early. We can prevent wealth ceilings from forming in childhood. We can interrupt intragenerational poverty at the level of belief and identity. We're not just understanding the financial thermostat, we're learning to deliberately set it. And for us, it means we may be standing at the edge of a revolution in how humans build wealth. A shift from external strategies to internal transformation, from financial planning to identity engineering. The tools are emerging, the science is maturing. The question is whether you'll use them.
So let's confront the most unsettling implication of everything we've explored. What if wealth is primarily psychological, not economic? What if your current financial situation is not a reflection of market conditions, educational opportunities, or economic systems, but simply the inevitable manifestation of your unconscious programming?
Which leads to an even more profound question. Are you programmable? Can you genuinely change your financial thermostat? Or are you forever constrained by programming installed decades ago? The neuroscience says yes, your brain is plastic, adaptive, constantly rewiring. The psychological evidence says yes, identity can shift through deliberate practice. The financial data says yes, people regularly transcend their conditioning and build wealth that would have seemed impossible in their former identity. But it's not automatic, it's not easy, and it requires something most people never do: becoming conscious of your unconscious. You must examine the beliefs you didn't know you had, question the assumptions that feel like facts, challenge the identity that feels like truth. This is the work. Not budgeting, not investing, not hustling. Psychological excavation, identity evolution, thermostat recalibration. So what would it look like to actually change your financial ceiling? Based on everything we've explored, a synthesis emerges. Step 1. Make the unconscious conscious. Identify your current financial thermostat setting. What income level feels normal? What wealth level would make you uncomfortable? What do you unconsciously believe you deserve? Step 2. Trace the programming. When did you learn these beliefs? What were the specific messages, models, and experiences that installed this thermostat setting? Step 3. Challenge the programming. Are these beliefs true? Are they yours, or did you inherit them? Do they serve your future or only your past? Step 4. Install new programming. Through visualization, affirmation, and most importantly, new behavior, create evidence for a new identity. Act as the person who has already transcended the ceiling. Step 5. Expand gradually. Don't quantum leap. Expand your comfort zone incrementally. Raise the thermostat 5 degrees at a time. Step 6. Reinforce the new identity. Surround yourself with people, environments, and information that reflect your new financial identity. Mirror neurons will do the rest. This is the protocol. Simple to understand, difficult to execute, transformative when applied. But here's the most mind-bending implication of all. If your financial thermostat is unconscious, then most people are living someone else's financial life, enacting programming they didn't choose, pursuing outcomes that reflect their parents' beliefs, their culture's limitations, their childhood's scarcity. They're not free, they're automated. But the moment you become aware of the thermostat, you gain the power to change it. Consciousness creates choice, and choice creates freedom. This means your financial future is neither predetermined nor random. It's not about luck. It's not about the economy.
It's not even about opportunity. It's about one thing: whether you'll examine your programming and consciously choose new code. The ceiling is invisible, but once you see it, it becomes optional. The question is, will you raise it?
We began with a disturbing premise that your brain contains a hidden wealth ceiling installed in childhood governing every financial outcome you've ever experienced. We traced the evidence through psychology, neuroscience, behavioral economics, and real-world financial patterns. We examined lottery winners who returned to poverty, immigrants who built wealth despite barriers, and high earners who never accumulated anything. We discovered the financial thermostat, the unconscious program that regulates your wealth to match your identity. We learned that this thermostat isn't fixed. Neural pathways can be rewired. Identity can be evolved. Ceilings can be raised. But transformation requires something radical, making the unconscious conscious, examining beliefs you've never questioned, challenging programming that feels like truth. The mystery isn't why some people stay poor. It's why so few people examine their programming. The opportunity isn't in the economy, it's in your mind. The revolution isn't coming from outside, it's waiting inside, in the space between who you've been programmed to be and who you could consciously choose to become. So here's what we know. Wealth is psychological before it's financial. Your external reality will always match your internal identity. And the ceiling you're experiencing isn't real, it's just familiar. The thermostat exists. The evidence is undeniable. But the setting is adjustable. Your brain is the real economy. And starting today, you have the power to rewrite it.
The mind is vast. The potential is endless. The transformation begins now.